As a melee ADC in the bottom lane, you are basically fighting for your life every single game. If you have ever played an MMO or gacha game, Nilah is basically like loading into the game as a level 1 goblin and the enemies are like level 10 archers. So today I have 8 different lessons on teaching you how to play Nilah to a challenger level, and it doesn't matter what rank you are, you will definitely learn a lot to improve your gameplay. The first 3 lessons might not be as exciting as the last 5 lessons, but I think as with all improvement, you always have to get through the boring part and build a good foundation before you can actually have more fun later on. So let's get right into it. Throw out what you know about matchups and just try to see if the enemies try to pressure you or not. Because if a Caitlyn isn't hitting you, there's no difference between her playing Caitlyn or Briar. She's only Caitlyn if she's hitting you from miles away. However, in this case, the enemy Caitlyn and Brand are actually actively trying to win the lane by poking and making us lose farm. I'm already down half CS by this part. And laning phase is mostly a turn-based game. So even if the enemies get a gold lead, if they don't spend that gold, then HP and mana are the only resources that matter until you both recall. Then you kind of have a difference. If the Caitlyn buys a BF sword and you can only buy like 2 long swords, that is a 20 attack damage difference. Now, because I got EXP, I'm up in levels, as long as I can try to get an advantage before they recall, then I'm technically not at a disadvantage, because gold that you don't spend isn't gold that you actually like have yet. I know that sounds really like confusing or philosophical, but like, look, if she didn't spend that gold, then she hasn't completed her kind of like completed the cycle yet, right? She has to spend that gold and buy like a BF sword or something, and then if I can't buy that exact same BF sword, then I'm at a disadvantage, right? So in this case, I'll tell my Soraka like, hey, can you go stop their base, or I'll try myself. So just like walk here. Okay, so we actually stop their base. That's really good for us. If they don't get it off here, then we should be able to get an advantage. Or even if they get this base off, I would say we can just push this wave and then kind of try to play catch up. Okay, she's right here, which I don't know why, but probably can't kill her, honestly. It's just burning barrier or something, or maybe we don't burn anything. But yeah, that is good, because she is now 1 HP. She is in danger of getting ganked, and essentially she hasn't spent that gold yet, and she still needs to recall, right? Whereas we are kind of just chilling. We are down CS, Soraka had the recall, but we still have more health than the enemies. Okay, this Brand right here is overextending as well, so looks like it doesn't turn into a kill, which is unfortunate, but we do burn their summoner spells, so that's okay, I guess. That's acceptable. Alright, maybe they die here, maybe they don't. If they die here, then good for Katarina, but I'm recalling here. I'm not gonna get greedy. It is what it is. Okay, it's kind of awkward, but that's fine. My usual rule is that I will allow myself to take 1 auto or 1 spell from an enemy to get 1 or 2 CS, and I always try to juggle around Nilah's Q max range in order to catch the enemies off guard and get farm for free. And basically after 6, it's much easier to play Nilah because you can make plays like this onto the enemies who have no flash, and you just chase them down and use flash when necessary. And this is basically just payback for all the suffering you get before level 6. I think a lot of guides or players explain freezing in a very complicated way, but to make it very, very simple, it is basically just keeping the wave on your side in order to have a safer lane. And the potential of denying enemies gold and EXP, you can always do this when the enemy minion wave has more minions than your own minion wave. Everyone freezes differently, so you kind of just have to find your own rhythm when it comes to freezing, but I would only freeze if I knew that I had the HP and mana to hold it. The most important part about freezing is just keeping the wave on your side, and then allowing the enemies to be put in a more dangerous spot for them to get ganked. Basically, just never let your enemies feel safe. And freezing can either be for a short time or a long time, and generally speaking, short freezes where you deny the enemies around 1 wave of minions is good enough to build a lead. This one is pretty self-explanatory, and also one of my favorite parts about playing Nilah because it gives so much dopamine when you succeed. Outplaying ganks always involve trying to fight to the death and limit testing, and generally you can outplay a gank if the enemies let you stack Conqueror for free in the beginning, or if they focus your support first. Personally, if I am Nilah and they burn all their spells and autos hitting my support, I would always try to fight back and trade for a kill or 2. And usually it works out. Another self-explanatory dopamine hit is whenever you outplay dives, and it is very easy to survive dives as Nilah because of her W ability that blocks partial magic damage and also autos. So sorry, but I don't know why the recording kind of stopped at this part, so I'm re-recording it after the game, but I took a pretty bad trade here. Honestly, it would have been fine if Karma wasn't like right behind her, but Karma came back in time, so then like a big chunk of damage here, and then here's where enemies can kind of dive me. Now, if you stop and kind of pause, like I'm looking at my conditions, right? Like I'm really low, but my W is coming back soon. They need a bit of time to push out this wave, and I'm just looking at my levels. I can get level 6 if I get 1 kill or like a minion, a few minions die. So I try to survive as long as possible. Karma tanks, Shiova tanks dies, I flash away, and once I'm level 6, I click R, and then that ends up being a double kill. There's like quite a bit of luck to this. I don't think the enemies played it perfectly, but I think that this is kind of like an example of how you can kind of train yourself or get used to putting yourself in the best spots, even if like you make a mistake. One of the biggest problems is running into supports that just feed or just roam, and in this case I have a Zarya that dies multiple times in lane for no reason. Here all we need to do is just wait for the wave to come into the turret so we can farm, but she gets caught, and in her defense she is playing against Mel plus Swain, which is really cringe, but at some point you have to just learn your lesson. So in this case she dies multiple times, and Mastery right here, he's recalling on a ward after invading our jungle, which for me it's kind of a free kill because there was no one near him. The enemy bot lane already recalled, so this is a bit of a freebie that will help me get back into the game versus the enemies. But then Zarya comes back to lane again, and then she just gets caught once again. So she hasn't learned her lesson versus these two mages. They just CC her and kill her. I can't help her because I don't really have HP or mana, right? And even if I did, I can't really do anything into those two champions. So now for the recovery, we're going to use something that we learned previously, which is freezing. We want to hold the wave here, and similar to the Caitlyn case, we kind of just want to make sure that the enemies lose as much as possible, and if they don't recall here, then they were already low mana and low health to begin with, then it puts them at a disadvantage, right? And if they do recall, then they will lose minions. So this is our thought process into recovery. This is kind of our first step. It's not much because they did get a lot of gold off of our Zyra, but there's nothing we can do about that. We can't really control Zyra, so we just have to try our best to do what we can. So here you see that we're actually able to make the Mel lose about 5 minions, which is honestly a lot, and then a fight starts to break off here. This fight looks good for us because the Mastery got really low early, so we're going to take advantage of that. And then we're going to try to position ourselves to hit both Mel and Swain as much as possible. They're kind of lining up, and right now it's just 1v2, but Graves lands an ult here. Keep chasing because there's no point in running anyways. And then even though I die, we're able to actually get a triple kill on the enemies, right? So that wasn't that bad. And then for the next fight, we get ganked again, and then there's Fizz here this time. But we're going to do the same thing. Just try to play the fights as best as we can. Focus on the Fizz, ult 2 of them, and then just end up finishing off the rest of the enemies. So this is the type of recovery that you want to look for. And you kind of just have to be very calm, don't tilt, and eventually the opportunities will come because Nilah is a champion that excels really hard at fighting enemy champions, especially when they're grouped up. It is also the easiest part of the game to snowball if you know what you're doing, so basically just always try to focus on getting gold to buy items versus just fighting with your team permanently. I'm not saying to ignore your team, but be aware that every game is different, but most of the time you will have better luck just focusing on your own gold than listening to your teammate, because you are the late game carry. And in this case, the enemies kind of just run into us, and this is exactly what you want as Nilah because it is way easier to fight enemies that are running into you and kind of just essentially walking into your ult than you walking into the enemies, right? Because you are very short range and you don't have tools to get onto the enemies unless you have flash. And then after the fight, we decided to go back and hit the mid turret. So this is what you want to do, focus objectives, turrets, and minions, and then if they choose to run into you with a fight that's really good for you, then you should take it. Team fighting is probably the easiest part about playing Nilah. Just go in and ult as many people as you can without dying and just kind of mash your keyboard for damage. With more practice in team fights, the better it is. I know I've been gone for a while, and after this video I will most likely after this video I will probably disappear for 2 more months because I have to do overseas work, but I will be back when my school semester starts and will likely be pushing out more videos. Thank you so much for the patience and the support, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh, actually, as per usual, any questions and comments, please leave them down below, and I will respond whenever I can. Thank you.